welcome to the deep dive. If you're anything like me, you've probably found yourself standing in the middle of a supplement aisle, or maybe just endlessly scrolling online, completely paralyzed by information overload.
Oh, absolutely. It's an overwhelming space.
Right, you're staring at this wall of bottles, and they're all promising endless energy, perfect joints, a bulletproof immune system, and you just find yourself wondering, I mean, do I actually need any of this? Or am I just financing some really expensive plumbing by peeing all this out?
The expensive urine problem, yeah. A very valid question.
Exactly. And we know you're here listening because you want to cut through all that marketing noise. You want to get straight to the actual biology of what your body needs. So today we are getting a masterclass in separating the hype from medical reality.
And it is a massive topic. To navigate it, we're pulling from a really comprehensive new guide published in March 2026. It's titled General Health Vitamins, a comprehensive guide to essential nutrients for well-being. It was written by Laurent Fabian.
And he's an industry insider, right?
He is. He's a wellness innovator who focuses heavily on the actual science of how supplements are sourced and metabolized rather than just, how they're marketed to us.
I am so ready to unpack this because his research really changed my perspective on my entire morning routine. Our mission today is to pull out the most crucial updates from the 2025 and 2026 guidelines and hopefully give you some major aha moments about how your cells actually use this stuff.
Really eye-opening.
But before we get into the weeds, the author establishes this core philosophy right out of the gate. And it honestly takes so much pressure off the whole supplement question. He says, food first remains the cornerstone of vitamin adequacy.
Which is such a crucial anchor for this entire deep dive. Supplements are essentially just troubleshooting tools.
Right.
They're not a replacement for a diverse diet. They exist to fill verified biological gaps or to support very specific life stages. And to use those tools correctly, the updated guidelines draw this massive, non-negotiable line in the sand regarding how these vitamins function in the human body.
The great divide.
Exactly. The divide between fat-soluble and water-soluble vitamins.
And this is where that expensive urine joke actually comes into play, right? Because whether a vitamin is fat-soluble or water-soluble completely dictates how your body stores it.
Precisely. What's fascinating here is the mechanics of it. Think of water-soluble vitamins, that's vitamin C and the whole family of B vitamins, as daily commuters in your body.
Commuter, okay.
Yeah, they clock in, they do their biochemical jobs, and if you've consumed way more than your cells can utilize that day, your kidneys simply filter out the excess and you excrete it.
You literally flush it away.
Right, but the fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K, they operate under a completely different physiological rulebook. Your body treats them like long-term emergency supplies.
So they don't just clock out and leave.
No, they don't. If you consume more than you need, they don't get flushed out. They accumulate. They get locked away in your fat tissues in your liver.
Which means we really have to pay attention to our dosage. Because hoarding too much in our tissues over time can actually become toxic.
Highly toxic, yes.
But what really jumped out at me from the guide was a super practical, everyday tip about just getting those fat-soluble vitamins to work in the first place. If you want your body to absorb vitamins A, D, E, or K, you literally have to pair them with dietary fats.
You must. It's non-negotiable for absorption.
So if you're throwing back a vitamin D pill with just black coffee on an empty stomach, you're essentially wasting it.
You're severely limiting its absorption, yes. You need a transport mechanism, which means taking it with a meal that includes some olive oil or avocado, maybe eggs.
Okay, let's crack open that long-term storage unit and look really closely at those fat-soluble VIPs, starting with vitamin A. Most of us grew up hearing, we need to eat colorful vegetables for vitamin A, carrots for your eyes.
The classic advice, yes.
And while it's true that plants provide carotenoids, like beta-carotene, the guide points out a fascinating metabolic catch.
The catch comes down to what we call the metabolic cost of conversion. When you consume preformed vitamin A from animal sources like dairy, eggs, or liver, your body can use it almost immediately. But when you consume plant-based carotenoids, your body has to do the heavy lifting to convert them into that active form.
And we aren't all great at that.
Far from it. For many individuals, depending purely on their genetics, that conversion process is highly inefficient.
So relying entirely on a plant-based diet might mean you actually need to eat a significantly higher volume of those foods just to hit your necessary levels.
Exactly.
But on the flip side, we can't just start chugging pure vitamin A supplements to make up for it either.
We definitely shouldn't do that. The source gives a very severe warning against chronic megadosing of preformed vitamin A. High intakes over time carry serious teratogenic risks.
Teratogenic meaning it can cause physical defects in a developing fetus during pregnancy.
That's correct, which is why prenatal care requires such specific monitoring of vitamin A. But even outside of pregnancy, chronic high doses can lead to severe liver toxicity and even structural changes to your bones. It's a classic example of how a vital nutrient becomes a poison if the dose is too high.
That really sets the stage for vitamin D, the famous sunshine vitamin. I feel like everyone has a vitamin D bottle in their cabinet right now. The guide notes the recommendation is about 600 to 800 IU per day, but it also highlights some really unexpected interactions. I mean, I know we need to watch out for calcification if we take too much.
Yes, excessive vitamin D pushes your blood calcium levels dangerously high, which is a condition called hypercalcemia.
Okay.
That essentially leads to calcium depositing in soft tissues where it absolutely does not belong, places like your blood vessels or your kidneys. But the drug interactions are what often surprise people the most.
That was wild to me.
Yeah.
The guide specifically mentions that vitamin D interacts with weight loss drugs and steroids. How does a vitamin interfere with a weight loss medication?
Well, many weight loss medications work by actively blocking the absorption of dietary fats in your gut.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Right. Remember what we established earlier. You need dietary fats to absorb vitamin D. So the medication inadvertently blocks the vitamin, potentially leading to a deficiency.
And what are the steroids?
Steroids can actually impair your body's ability to metabolize vitamin D properly. It's a highly interconnected system.
Which makes total sense when you look at the mechanics of it. Okay, moving on to vitamin E. I have to admit, this one gave me a bit of whiplash.
I'm not surprised.
Vitamin E is marketed everywhere as the ultimate antioxidant miracle. It's in skin creams, it's in green juices, it's sold in massive megadose capsules. But the 2026 guide essentially throws cold water on all of that for the average healthy person.
It represents a major paradigm shift in nutritional science. Look, vitamin E is indeed a powerful lipid-soluble antioxidant. It protects our cell membranes from damage. However, long-term clinical data has revealed very complex concerning associations between high-dose vitamin E supplementation and an increase in cardiovascular and all-cause mortality.
Wait, so taking massive doses of this healthy antioxidant is actually linked to a higher risk of mortality?
In healthy individuals taking high-dose supplements, yes, that is exactly what the data suggests.
That is huge.
It is. Because of those associations, the 2025 and 2026 guidance is very firm. Get your vitamin E from a varied diet, eat sunflower oil, almonds, spinach. High-dose capsules are simply not recommended unless a clinician has diagnosed a specific, verified deficiency.
That is a massive takeaway. Drop the megadose, unless your doctor says otherwise. So rounding out the fat-soluble group, we have vitamin K, which we know is crucial for bone health and blood clotting. But I'm noticing a trend in the supplement aisle right now. Brands are hyper-fixated on vitamin K2. What is the distinction there?
It's an important distinction to make. Vitamin K1, or phylloquinone, is what you get from leafy greens like kale. It goes straight to your liver and primarily handles blood coagulation.
Okay, and K2.
Vitamin K2, or menaquinones, is found in fermented foods and animal products. It plays a much larger role in directing calcium away from your arteries and into your bones.
And the guide specifically notes that private label brands and the supplement industry are obsessed with a subtype of K2 called MK7. Why that specific one?
It comes down to its half-life. MK7 stays active in your bloodstream for a significantly longer period than other forms. So from a formulator's perspective, providing MK7 means the consumer gets a sustained benefit from a single dose.
It's just more efficient.
Yes. But any discussion of vitamin K requires a massive, non-negotiable medical warning.
The blood thinner interaction.
Exactly. Because vitamin K is the master switch for blood coagulation, if you are taking an anticoagulant medication like warfarin, sudden changes to your vitamin K intake can drastically alter how well that life-saving medication works.
That sounds dangerous.
It's a highly volatile mix that requires strict physician oversight.
So talk to your doctor, full stop. Okay, if those are the fat-soluble vitamins, the ones our bodies hoard in storage, let's pivot to the daily commuters, the water-soluble workhorses. Vitamin C and the B complex. Let's start with vitamin C. The basics are 90 milligrams for men, 75 for women. We all know citrus, berries, and peppers are great sources. But the guide dropped a fascinating physiological insight regarding smokers.
Yes, the guidelines state that individuals who smoke require an additional 35 milligrams of vitamin C per day compared to non-smokers.
And what's interesting is why. It's not just a random penalty. It's because of oxidative stress. As I understand it, smoking introduces a massive amount of free radicals into the body, which act kind of like cellular rust. And vitamin C is the antioxidant that sacrifices itself to neutralize that rust. So smokers are literally just burning through their vitamin C reserves at a highly accelerated rate.
That's a perfect analogy. The cellular turnover and damage are so high that the body's daily commuter supply is depleted much faster.
But let me play devil's advocate here for a second. If vitamin C is water-soluble, and we just pee out whatever we don't use, why do the guidelines even bother setting an upper limit? Why not just take 5 grams a day to be safe, knowing my kidneys will handle the rest?
Because your elimination system still has a processing capacity. The upper limit is set at 2,000 milligrams a day for a very good reason.
What happens if you go over?
When you flood your gut with massive megadoses, say 3 or 4 grams, your intestines simply cannot absorb it all at once. The unabsorbed vitamin acts as an osmotic agent.
Meaning it pulls water in.
Yes, it draws water into your gut, which leads to severe gastrointestinal distress and diarrhea. Furthermore, as your body breaks down that excess vitamin C for excretion, it produces oxalate. And oxalate significantly increases the risk of developing kidney stones in susceptible people.
Okay, kidney stones are definitely a good enough reason for me to respect the limits. So let's look at the other group of daily commuters, the B complex. So what does this all mean when we look at these vitamins? They're famous for being the ultimate energy boosters. They are in every neon-colored energy drink out there. But when you look at how they actually function, there are so many surprises. Like vitamin B2, riboflavin. I had no idea it was so sensitive to light.
It is incredibly photosensitive. When riboflavin is exposed to ultraviolet light, its chemical structure actually breaks down and degrades.
Which makes me completely rethink all those premium, clear glass bottles of vitamins sitting on my kitchen counter in the sun. Or those glowing yellow energy drinks in clear plastic bottles. By the time I drink them, the B2 might be completely fried.
It is a massive challenge for product packaging, yes. Opaque containers are absolutely essential for preserving riboflavin in food and supplements.
Let's talk about vitamin B3, niacin. The guide mentions it's sometimes used in lipid management, like for cholesterol. But using it that way sounds incredibly intense.
It is, because managing lipids requires what we call pharmacologic doses.
Not just normal supplement levels.
Right. That means you are no longer using the vitamins simply to meet basic nutritional needs. You are prescribing it at massive doses to force a specific medical outcome, essentially using it as a drug. The normal supplement upper limit is just 35 milligrams. Pharmacologic doses can be 50 times that amount.
50 times? That's insane.
And at those levels, patients often experience intense, painful skin flushing. More dangerously, it carries a severe risk of hepatotoxicity, which is liver damage and glucose intolerance.
Liver damage from a B vitamin. It is wild how quickly these healthy compounds turn dangerous. And we see a similar thing with vitamin B6 pyridoxine. I see B6 thrown into sleep aids and mood supplements all the time. But the guide sets a strict upper limit of 100 milligrams.
Because chronic long-term consumption of high-dose B6 is uniquely toxic to the nervous system. It can cause sensory neuropathy.
Nerve damage. What does that actually feel like for a person?
It typically presents as a progressive numbness, tingling, or burning pain in the extremities, usually the hands and feet.
Wow.
The irony is that in normal doses, B6 is vital for synthesizing neurotransmitters and keeping nerves healthy. But flood the system chronically, and it destroys the very nerves it's supposed to protect.
That is alarming, to say the least. Okay, I have to bring up vitamin B7, biotin, because the beauty industry has built an absolute empire on this vitamin. Hair, skin, and nail gummies are everywhere, but the source essentially calls their bluff.
It points out a very common marketing inflation. Biotin is vital for energy metabolism, and yes, if you have a true clinical deficiency, your hair will thin and your nails will become brittle, but actual biotin deficiency is exceedingly rare in developed nations.
Right, so if your hair is thinning because of stress or genetics, taking a massive biotin gummy isn't going to magically fix it, because biotin wasn't the broken link in the chain to begin with.
Exactly. The robust clinical evidence showing cosmetic benefits for people who already have adequate biotin levels is incredibly limited. It is generally safe, but you're likely just paying for very expensive marketing.
A tough pill to swallow for anyone dropping $50 a month on hair vitamins. Now, I want to spend some real time on this next interaction because it honestly blew my mind. It's the relationship between vitamin B9, which is folate, and vitamin B12, cobalamin. The guide highlights a specific danger here regarding synthetic folic acid. How exactly do these two interact?
This is arguably one of the most critical safety warnings in modern clinical nutrition, particularly for older adults. To understand it, we have to look at what happens when you are deficient in B12. A B12 deficiency triggers two main problems. First, it causes a specific type of anemia where your red blood cells are abnormally large. Second, it causes progressive, irreversible damage to your neurological system.
Okay, so the anemia is kind of like the check engine light on your car's dashboard.
Okay.
It lets the doctor know something is wrong before the engine in your nervous system completely burns out.
That is a brilliant analogy. Now, here is where synthetic folic acid, vitamin B9, enters the picture. If an older adult has a B12 deficiency, but they consume high amounts of synthetic folic acid from fortified foods or supplements, that folic acid will actually step in and correct the anemia.
Wait, it fixes the blood cells?
Yes. It turns off the check engine light. Their routine blood work will look perfectly normal.
Oh, no.
But the folic acid does absolutely nothing to stop the neurological damage caused by the lack of B12. It masks the primary warning signs, allowing the irreversible nerve damage to continue silently until the cognitive and physical symptoms become severe.
That is terrifying. So you think you're being healthy by taking a multivitamin with tons of folic acid, but you are actually cutting the wire to your body's own alarm system.
Precisely.
And to make matters worse for B12, the guide notes that common medications can just block its absorption entirely.
Yes. B12 requires stomach acid to be separated from the food you eat. If you are an older adult dealing with atrophic gastritis, which is a natural decline in stomach acid, or if you take daily acid suppressants for heartburn, you might be eating plenty of B12, but your body simply cannot extract it.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it really drives home the point that the era of the generic, one-size-fits-all multivitamin is completely dead. You can't hand the same exact pill to a vegan, a pregnant woman, and a 70-year-old taking heartburn medication.
You absolutely cannot. The guidelines demand customization. Vegans require fortified B12, iodine, and vitamin D because their diet lacks the primary animal sources. Pregnant individuals must carefully balance boosting their folate to prevent neural tube defects while strictly limiting their preformed vitamin A to avoid those teratogenic risks.
So how is the supplement industry actually adapting to this? Because consumers are getting smarter. We're reading the labels now. The author, Fabian, goes into this a bit.
The industry is undergoing a massive shift toward clean labels and highly bioavailable forms. They know they can't just use the cheapest synthetic ingredients anymore to build consumer trust.
Right. And when we say bioavailable, we're basically talking about formats that let your body skip the metabolic middleman. Like, instead of using a cheap B12 that your liver has to work hard to convert, premium formulators are using methylcobalamin.
Exactly. Methylcobalamin is already in its active methylated state. Your cells can utilize it immediately, which is incredibly beneficial for people with absorption issues or specific genetic variations. It is the exact same logic behind using MK7 for vitamin K2. The industry is formulating to match human biology, not just trying to cram 1,000% of your daily value into a giant tablet.
It really is a complete shift in how we approach our health. To wrap this all up, the core philosophy we've extracted from these 2026 guidelines is multi-layered. First, respect the upper limits. We've seen how excess A, B6, and niacin aren't just wasteful, they're actively toxic. Second, understand the biological crossfire. Whether it's weight loss drugs blocking vitamin D or folic acid masking a B12 deficiency, these systems do not operate in a vacuum. And finally, always default to food first, using supplements only for those verified specific gaps.
I want to turn this over to you, the listener, for a moment. After hearing about the dangerous storage capacity of fat-soluble vitamins, or the harsh reality behind biotin marketing, or how easily a B12 deficiency can be masked, what stands out to you about this? When you evaluate your own morning routine or look at the bottles sitting in your own cabinet, what assumptions might you need to reevaluate based on this biology?
It's definitely going to make me audit my own routine. No more blindly trusting the front label without checking the actual biological forms on the back.
And as you think about your own routine, I'd like to leave you with a final thought to mull over, drawing directly from a very provocative quote in Fabian's material regarding the future of this entire industry. He writes, "Nutrition science is moving toward personalized nutrition, where testing and clinician guidance help tailor vitamin intakes to each person.
That's fascinating.
It is. Imagine a near future, maybe just a few years from now, where the generic multivitamin aisle completely disappears. If science continues on this trajectory of supreme customization, will we soon rely entirely on daily personalized clinical testing? Picture waking up, doing a quick at-home pinprick or breath test, and having a countertop machine instantly mix a bespoke vitamin cocktail that changes daily based on your body's exact real-time metabolic needs. No more guessing, no more upper limits exceeded, just absolute biological precision.
A machine printing your exact daily needs based on real-time data. The total death of the supplement aisle. That is a wild but incredibly plausible future to think about. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep asking questions, keep reading those labels, and we will see you next time.